first. Yesterday evening, the news broke that a former soldier from Leeds had admitted in conning people out of thousands of pounds by pretending he had cancer and lying that he was a war hero. Simon Buckden had been on trial at Leeds Crown Court, but 4 days in, he changed his plea to guilty. He claimed to have had cancer in an attempt to get sympathy and money, but medical records revealed he was never diagnosed with the illness. He had claimed that he'd served in war-torn countries on the front line and was a member of the Special Forces, when in fact his record shows he was a military clerk until he was discharged in 2001 due to mental health problems. He had appeared on BBC Radio Leeds several times and on Look North. Here he is talking about proposing to his girlfriend at the end of his stint, carrying the Olympic torch.
I think I wanted to set the bar high for all the guys out there, and I've heard today that what are people going to do now? And basically, Louisa said to me that if I'm going to ask the question, do it in the proper manner and do it in the right way. And I thought, I'm only going to get one opportunity to do this, and that's the best thing that I can do.
And I take it Louisa said yes?
She did. It felt like an eternity. It felt like about, I think it was about 10 seconds, but it felt like about an hour. It was absolutely bizarre because there's so much going on around you, and the security guys going, come on, we need to go kind of thing, but yeah.
And what was her reaction?
I think she put her hands on her head, and that's about all I remember, and I'm glad she had glasses on and she didn't blush, I think.
Oh.
Well, a local business group, the Yorkshire Mafia, gave him over £1,500 for a new charity venture that he was setting up called Positive Action for PTSD. Phil Lee is a former soldier in the Coldstream Guards and now a businessman, and says that Simon bamboozled him with his sob story. He gave him lots of time and coaching for free to help Simon.
Lots of guys who I served with, who are genuine veterans, are deeply offended by these characters who proclaim to have served in many parts of the world or worked with special forces, when it's fairly clear to those guys who have that these guys were nowhere near. So it brings a reputation down.
Well, somebody else who gave up his time and free courses on his motivational speaking conference was Richard McCann, who joins us from Leeds. He's on the programme now. Good morning, Richard.
Good morning, Jonny.
Richard, just take us back. How did you become involved with Simon, and what was it that convinced you that this was a genuine guy?
Well, I became involved with him in 2011. A friend of mine met him and heard his sob story, or his story, and thought, this guy's got, like myself, has got a story to tell and would like some help in sharing his story, because he was obviously not established as a speaker. So, I'd run presentation skills training days, so my friend thought I could help him in that way. So I connected with him, and I had some kind of relationship with him. I invited him to the Professional Speaking Association, where I was regional president at the time, and that's when I first met him, because I had corresponded with him over a few weeks. But when I first met him, that's when I started to have doubts about him. First of all, his emails to me before we even met were manipulative. He was sending emails, almost demands of things he needs from people, marketing, websites, videos, and there was all sorts of like a wish list. And I thought, this is manipulative. Anyway, I met the guy, and he started sharing that he'd been to Northern Ireland undercover, trying to infiltrate the IRA, and I just thought, this does not. This person sat beside me is not the kind of person that I would put in that kind of position. So I started having my concerns about him, but I didn't challenge him. I just kind of let him say what he had to say, and then I think the next time I met him was at the Olympic torch relay in Leeds, or the day before we met, and well, throughout this time, all I know is he kept putting things out there. In particular, his old Daily Mirror news story about him having cancer, and he just kept putting it out there repeatedly, like 6 months after the article had been in the papers. And I thought, there's something not right about all this, about just the way in which he conducts himself. It's almost like desperate attention seeking, that type of thing. So that's kind of how I met him, and that's kind of what I thought of him. But and then I invited him to my presentation skills training day, which not for free. I just invited him because he was an aspiring speaker. He said he didn't have any money. All the money he had went to was being raised for charity. So I just thought, what? He said, the guy's got cancer. He's been to war. He's a soldier and all this stuff. I offered him a space for free, and he came along. And that day was a very interesting day. Not least because some of the people that he went on to con met him that day on that that presentation skills training day.
Right.
Gareth Boot, for example, gave him £2,000, which has all come out now. He met him that day, so I almost feel slightly responsible for it.
Well, the thing is, I mean, when somebody may exaggerate about their previous career, I guess you can sometimes see how that happens. But when then that starts getting into the realms of saying that you have terminal cancer and all these life-limiting illnesses, then by the very extremity of what he's telling you, it's quite difficult not to believe it, I guess, because you wouldn't assume that somebody would or could ever lie about that.
You're right. I've not come across people that lie in such a way. I mean, we all, as you said, we all sometimes exaggerate our CVs over the years. But to go to that extent, he at this presentation skills training, he stood up and he started, and this is what it started to concern me. He started to share the fact that he'd been to Bosnia and he'd had some child in his arms that was dying and died, and there's blood splattered all over him. But the way in which he recounted that story was not without any emotion. It was like he was reading it.
Right.
And that's what I started to think. And also, during that day, I shared some of my own, story of overcoming some real tragedy. And he was looking out the window. He couldn't care less. So just a couple of little alarm bells were ringing for Simon. And then as weeks and months, I just unfolded. I started just watching what he was doing, and one thing led to another, and people started contacting me, and they were also concerned about him. But the worst thing for me, I mean, I know he's been convicted now, or not, he hasn't been sentenced yet, but he's admitted to lying. But for me, the money is one thing. What I've observed, and of course I can't go into detail now, but the people that I have had contact me over the years, I couldn't even put a number on it. The amount of people that he bullied, not for money, just been bullied and abused them online in personal messages. I mean, I won't even go into the details.
No.
But there's a bigger picture here that was starting to form in my mind when I was being contacted by so many people.
Okay.
But what his downfall was, as far as I'm concerned, for me personally, is my wife was diagnosed with breast cancer 3 years ago. She had to have a double mastectomy, and whilst my wife was in hospital, I'd put a tweet out there saying, my wife's been in 10 days, she's coming out now. And Simon Buckden chose to respond to that tweet by saying, funny thing, that cancer.
Right.
But anyway, at this point, he's supposed to have cancer.
Yeah.
My wife's got cancer. She's in hospital. We've got 3 children. He's saying it's a funny thing, that cancer. And that was what really, pushed me over the edge and thought, I've got to do something about this guy. And I went to the police.
Well, Richard, thank you very much for joining us this morning, and his sentencing is next week, so we shall await the verdict of that. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Cheers, Jonny.
Take care.
Bye.
That's Richard McCann there, the inspirational speaker, just one of several people that was conned by Simon Buckden, who admitted yesterday conning people out thousands of money, pretending he had cancer and lying that he was a war veteran and a former SAS hero.